So when I first landed to Australia, I just fell in love.
Laura is a delightful young woman. Our relationship has gone beyond working.
She's just been an angel, I think. We're very close friends, and together I'm happy to share with her my experiences here, and she's been there always. I have met beautiful and wonderful people from all around the world, trying different food cultures. It's something that develops you professionally, but the real life experience develops you as a human. It's been amazing and beautiful and fulfilling.
Hello everybody and welcome to Australia X. In partnership with PTE Academic, Australia X launched as an international student series in 2020 in response to the many and varied challenges being faced by international students around the world. Australia X, a digital summit, was developed to bring expert speakers together to support and inform students on their study options in Australia. Thanks to today's webinar sponsor, PTE Academic, who are bringing the Australia X International Student Series to students from around the world. More information about this English test that is ready when you are is available in the link. We'll pop that in the chat now. There is also a handy information sheet available in the Handouts tab. You'll find that on the right-hand side of your screen. Thanks also to Austrade for providing the videos included in today's webinar. We are thrilled to welcome such an experienced panel for today's event. Firstly, we'd like to welcome Melissa Banks, Head of the International Education Centre of Excellence, Austrade, providing national industry leadership and stakeholder engagement to drive innovation, collaboration and capability development. Melissa is an experienced leader, bringing a rich background in international education spanning 30 years and including multiple education sectors. She was most recently the Pro Vice Chancellor International at James Cook University. Welcome, Melissa. Thank you so much for joining us. We are also welcoming Angela Beachy from Study Perth and Herwindu Sadawa from Charles Darwin University, both supporting international students with their studies and opportunities in regional cities, Perth and Darwin. Welcome to you both. Thank you so much. And finally, we are welcome Neha Lalchandani, who is a PhD student at the University of Adelaide. It's always wonderful to hear from students about their own experiences. So welcome, Neha. Thank you for joining us. Just a few housekeeping notices for today's webinar. So we have the Q&A function, which is currently active. So we ask that you keep your questions as general in nature as possible. We can't answer questions that are specific to your circumstances, but please make sure to ask them in the Q&A box, and we will get to as many as possible as we can during today's webinar. You will also find in the chat box, we'll be sharing important links and resources related to today's topic. You will also find the Handouts tab. Again, that is where we are sharing more important resources for today. And there will also be a couple of polls that will pop up on your screen during today's webinar. We really appreciate you all participating in these polls as they help inform future webinars. Now, we will get to the beginning of today's webinar. I would like to pass it over to Melissa, who has a brief presentation for us all. Oh, Melissa, we just need a microphone on. Perfect. There we go.
We've only been doing this for nearly 2 years, so, you know, forgetting to turn on the mic is just terrible, isn't it? Look, hi, everyone, and thanks for having me. I just want to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the many and diverse lands on which we virtually meet today and pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. Look, I also want to acknowledge that so many of our students, our alumni, our education partners and families around the world are experiencing extremely challenging circumstances due to COVID-19. And I wish to convey our deepest sympathies for your personal struggles and in many cases terrible loss. International students and alumni are integral are an integral part of our community here at home, on campus and in our towns and cities, and as valued members of our Study Australia network globally. I just wanted to start telling you a little bit of a story, really, about this time last year. Well, in fact, during this time last year, I was Pro Vice Chancellor International at James Cook University. And when the borders closed, There was absolute extreme confusion, stress, concern, and we really had to jump to the support and aid of our students, both domestic and international. We had students offshore who couldn't get to Australia. We had students onshore who were called home, and we had students who were staying in Australia and needed our immediate help. And I have to say, we worked with states and territories and the federal government, and we were really pleased that we were able to come up with a support package that totaled a value of about $1.5 billion, which also included a whole lot of other arrangements, such as extended temporary work opportunities, ongoing access to mental health, some allowances around superannuation, and protections from eviction during the COVID lockdowns. During the pandemic, students in Australia did experience, particularly during the lockdown phases, they were unable to work. Many businesses had to close, and therefore many jobs were lost. And during that time, students really did struggle. So it was fantastic that we were able to come to their aid in the form of very practical support, like food hampers, tuition fee relief, access to learning technologies, and so on. And that support hasn't stopped. So it's continuing, and there is support in the form of mental health and wellbeing services. And so if you are feeling stressed, or you need to seek help, I really urge you to reach out and take advantage of those opportunities. I'm sure we'll share that link with you. So I'm really also pleased that we've been monitoring the experience of students while they've been in Australia. And look, I completely acknowledge it's been incredibly difficult. Students had to adjust to online delivery when we were in the lockdown, and had to attend online lectures and tutorials and all sorts of things. Students who went home had to do that synchronously. So some of them were getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning to attend the lectures. It was really, really difficult for everyone involved. And I 100% get that. But students who stayed in Australia, I guess, were fortunate to some degree in that they were fairly quickly allowed back on campus. Most students are attending tutorials, workshops, laboratories, and so on. And so we're very lucky, and we really do appreciate that. And we've been monitoring how our students have been going. And we do know that 80% of our students remain positive about their experience in Australia, and that they intend to stay and complete their studies here. So that's great. I do know too that for those of you who are offshore and unable to access Australia, that states and territories are very actively working on student arrival plans. And I remain ever hopeful that some of those will be approved shortly. I just wanted to quickly say that despite the travel restrictions, we've still got 500,000 international students who are still in Australia and studying with Australia, and about a third of those are actually studying online or from home in their home countries. And so this has really pushed our education and training providers to really embrace digital technologies to an extent they've never done so before. And so there are, as a result of this, a whole lot of new learning experiences and opportunities emerging. And I think you will find that as we emerge out of this pandemic, that the student will in fact be the winner, because you'll have more options than ever before. You can start your studies from home, purely online. Perhaps you might go to a local learning centre, or a course, an Australian course delivered on a local campus, and then transfer to Australia when health and border settings permit. We also have an arrangement with FutureLearn, and last year, over 4 months, we ran a pilot of a whole lot of short courses that were for free, and many students, in fact 830 enrolments, access those courses. And I'm pleased to say that they are still remain, and most of them remain free, and that they are often recognised for academic credit towards formal forms of learning. So by all means, do check those out. And I just want to finish off by saying a couple of words about the advantages of studying with Australia. And I might just start with the variety of the fields of study. And you'll find that most evident, in my opinion, and this is the Melissa Banks opinion, not the Australian government opinion, but based on my experience, I have found that it's the university cities where you'll really see that at play. So let me give some examples. Townsville and Cairns have the Great Barrier Reef, and JCU, James Cook University, has a #1 world ranking in marine and freshwater ecology. So what we talk about there is that students who study those disciplines at JCU have access to a living laboratory. And similarly, the University of Wollongong's Innovation Campus, which includes an iAccelerate Centre, which is designed for startups, scale-ups, social enterprises and entrepreneurs. And Australia's City of Design is located in Geelong, one of the fastest transitioning cities in the world. And Deakin's world-class School of Architecture in Geelong has played an important role in this process. And I could keep going. There are many examples of this nature. No matter where you choose to study, you can be assured of receiving a consistent quality education when studying in Australia. We all know what it's like to live in large metropolitan centres, but have you considered the benefits of living and studying in our university towns? The International Student Barometer consistently demonstrates the extremely high levels of satisfaction with studying and living in non-metropolitan locations. Students often refer to their experience being academically immersive, socially hyper-connected, community engaged and enriched, and experiencing an authentic Australia experience. Don't forget, there are Destination Australia scholarships. So those of you who are located in Australia, I encourage you to have a look for the Destination scholarships. They provide real opportunities for students to access and enjoy a study experience in a non-metropolitan centre. And by all means, you can Google those, or you can go onto the Study Australia website and just search Destination Australia and you'll find those. I also just want to finish off by saying that work integrated learning and internships are very important for you. And so Australia's vet providers all offer industry aligned courses and involve work placements. And increasingly, most universities offer courses that involve industry-based learning through work integrated learning or internships. And these provide important opportunities for students to develop their employability skills, which can improve your career prospects on graduation. So I'll leave it there and hand it back to the organisers.
Thank you so much, Melissa, for that wonderful presentation. We are going to now jump into questions, and I will start with you. So thank you again. I really hope that students watching got a lot of information from there and, a positive perspective on what the current situation is and how once things go back to normal or the new normal, we can all approach it with a positive mindset. So a couple of the questions I'll go through, you did just answer in this presentation, but we'll just have a quick summary. So essentially, there's no denying that this is a really difficult time for international students. What's your advice to students who are considering Australia as a study destination in the future?
Sorry, took me a minute to find my button. Yeah, look, it's really difficult for students who are looking to get into Australia or back to Australia. You know, whilst we're incredibly safe from COVID, we also are completely inaccessible at the moment, and it's a great frustration for you all. And we completely understand how you're feeling. But you know, as I mentioned, I know firsthand that there are states and territories consistently working on student return plans. So students who have already started studying or were in Australia and had to return home, you are a very high priority, as you should be. And we're doing everything we can to get you back. You might have heard reports today that the Australian government has said borders won't open until mid 2022, but they also referred to these student arrival plans. So we are committed to this, and we really seriously hope to get them through. We just can't give any guarantees, because every time one has got to the point of approval by the Prime Minister, something's happened, like a little outbreak or whatever. So yeah, I guess, you know, starting online is absolutely an option. And don't forget, there are many Australian courses that are taught potentially in your home country, and you'll be able to find them on the Study Australia website as of June onwards, because we've collated all that information for you, and you will be able to find what courses are actually taught on a campus from home.
Fantastic, thank you. And my second question, Melissa, is with the uncertainty around borders and travel restrictions, students are understandably hesitant about studying abroad. Is studying offshore still worth the wait until borders open? And what are the benefits to students who do this? So you've just said that, you know, later on in the year, there will be an opportunity for students to potentially study Australian courses in their home countries. What would be the benefits to students doing this?
So I think they don't have to wait. I mean, you're all young people. You deserve not to have to put your life on hold. My own kids don't want to put their lives on hold, and so they're pressing on as best as they can. It's a bit easier if you're already in Australia. For those of you who are offshore, I think the online option or the locally taught option gives you the opportunity to start your studies, and those studies will be recognised towards your studies in Australia, and then you can transfer. So I think there is an advantage in that you don't have to wait if you don't want to. Some students prefer to wait for that face-to-face on-campus experience, and so they will literally have to put their lives on hold for a bit, or perhaps go out into the real world and gain some work experience or something like that until the opportunity emerges.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And again, we briefly mentioned this in the presentation, Melissa, but can you please outline which cities in Australia are classified as regional, and what does this mean for an international student considering their study options?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, we categorise our cities by 3 categories. The category 1 is basically the big cities. So Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, that's category 1. They are not regional. And then you've got smaller but cities that are sort of located fairly close to large metropolitan centres, such as Geelong, even their capital cities in their states and territories. So you've got Darwin, Adelaide, Perth, and Hobart, and those sorts of locations. And then you've actually got 2 other types of locations, where category 3, and they are smaller cities, regionally based, and they can be fairly close to major centres like Geelong or like the Gold Coast, or like Wollongong, or they can be further away, like Townsville and Cairns, as I've already mentioned, Newcastle, and various others. And those cities attract higher or longer post-study work rights opportunities. So, if you study for 2 years and you qualify for post-study work rights, you immediately get 2 years. And if you continue to live and work in these regional centres, particularly the last category, you can qualify for an additional 2 years of post-study work rights.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Melissa, and thank you for providing such a thorough overview of the situation at large and for your wonderful presentation again. I would also just like to welcome everyone that has joined us today. Just looking through the chat, we have people joining us from India, Peru, Sri Lanka, Kazakhstan. So thank you to everyone that's joining us internationally. Please, again, make sure that you are asking us questions in the Q&A. We would love to connect with all of you and try and get to your questions if we can. So my next question is for Herwindu. In what ways have Australian education providers such as CDU developed their programs to ensure students studying online are getting the same quality of education as those that are studying in person?
Sure. Thanks, Alex. Thank you again for the opportunity. I think this is a very, very interesting question as well. So to answer this, CDU actually has been delivering all courses for online for almost 20 years. So CDU is not new in the online space. The university and the academics are experienced basically in this field. And of course, the university has invested a lot in the online platform, so to ensure that they have a very good learning experiences in terms of connectivity and easy access of learning materials, connect to live classes, and access to lecture recordings, etc. However, to have a good online platform itself is not enough. So that's why the university has been doing a constant review to make sure that students studying online are getting the same quality of education as those studying in person. So from this constant review, we identified that a good online course has to be interactive. So courses are much more than placeholders for students to access information. A good online course provides also information such as readings or lecture videos, but also involves interactions between professors and students, and between also students and students. So interactions between professors and students may involve students receiving personalized feedback, support and guidance. Interactions among students may include such things as debating various issues and collaborating with peers to solve a problem. And additionally, a good quality online course has to be engaging and challenging. So it invites students to participate, to motivates them to contribute and captures their interest and attention. It capitalizes on the joy of learning and challenges students to enhance their skills, abilities, and knowledge as well. So the other thing also is that a good online course involves practice. So good courses involve students in doing, so not just watching and reading, and doing it again and in applying what they learn. So what we think is another important factor is in the online course is also the academic, the instructor. So CDU has been doing a lot of training with our academics and instructors to ensure that they are visible and active and know how to present their materials online and our topics in an online world. So academics who exhibit care, empathy, and trust for students. So these individuals understand their students may have life beyond their course. Not only do many students take other courses, but they may be primary caretakers, have a job or struggling to make ends meet. And good online courses have instructors who are approachable and responsive and who work with students to address problems and concerns as they arise. So CDU has embedded all of these factors in our online delivery course.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Herwindu, for such a thorough overview of the situation and obviously how CDU is approaching online learning and how it has approached online learning for so many decades. Fantastic. My next question is for Angela. Angela, how can international students take this online study experience and turn it into opportunities for themselves from wherever they are in the world?
Well, I think given the changing nature of work, having those working from home skills like studying from home is becoming increasingly important. Knowing firsthand, because we worked from home for quite some time, I know that it is very different to stay focused when working from home, organising your day and pieces like that. So I think that being able to learn online and study online and set yourself some discipline around that is really practical, and yeah, especially will be for employment in the future. The online programs are also available, so through all institutions, but there's also supporting programs as well. So there's a lot of things that will help students get ready for entering the career workplace. So we've got a lot of employability programs. I know all of the state-based agencies and Study Australia are launching some of these too. Study Perth's version of that over in Western Australia, which is free for all international students here, is called Study Perth Prosper. So Prosper is free at the point of use for all international students and offers a variety of different employability programs to help students enter the workforce as well. So that is completely available virtually. So students can access that while studying in their home countries, or can access that onshore while they're here as well. So it's designed for students who are looking for where to study. There's a career personality questionnaire, but it also goes right through to supporting students through their studies and then helping them get ready for the workforce.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Angela. So we've actually put a link to Prosper Study Perth in the link in the chat box now. So if there are any international students currently based in Western Australia, there is an excellent resource for you. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Angela. So my next question is for Neha. Neha, how did you make your decisions on where to study in Australia? What were you considering when deciding, and what was most important to you? Microphone on.
Thanks, Alex. So to begin with, I decided to study in regional Australia mainly because of the specialty course on offer. So as we know, a lot of campuses in regional cities tend to offer a wide range of disciplines, many of which are tailored to the strengths of the local area. So in my case, I wanted to study food science and nutrition, and so I pursued this undergraduate degree in Ourimbah, where the University of Newcastle's Central Coast campus is located. Similarly, you might find that the campus in Adelaide's Barossa Valley offers a specialty winemaking degree, or a campus in far north Queensland would offer a range of tropical studies. Secondly, the affordable cost of living. The cost of living can be high in a lot of major cities. So by living and studying in a regional area, you will spend less money on rent, public transport, groceries, and recreation. Thirdly, a relaxed lifestyle. Regional cities tend to provide a very relaxing way of living life away from the hustle and bustle of the big city, and that is what makes it a great place to study. Also, given how close many places are in a small city, you will find that you can easily escape the CBD and go for a swim at the beach or a bushwalk in your spare time. So, fourthly, given given the smallness of regional cities, it's very easy to make meaningful networks. You will find that the networking opportunities can be quite enhanced when you tend to feel like you're part of a community rather than just being one person in a big city. So the opportunities to network in a close-knit community is quite fantastic. Currently, I'm pursuing a master's by research in public health, and I must say that some of the best world-class research and innovation happens right here in Adelaide. The biomedical precinct in Adelaide CBD is very impressive, and for those interested in business and marketing, you will find it fascinating to know that the Annenberg Bass Institute for Marketing Science is located right here in Adelaide, and they tend to do a lot of contract research for big companies such as Unilever and Procter & Gamble. So the reach is very global. Lastly, additional opportunities for migration. It's not surprising that if you are thinking of applying for permanent residency in Australia, once you are done studying, if you live and work here, you will get a distinct advantage from the migration side of things as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Neha. And thank you for putting together this little presentation here. Were there other slides that you wanted to take us through here?
For the second question.
My apologies. Thank you so much, Neha. So, Melissa, building on what Neha has just discussed, what other things are important for international students to consider when deciding on where they should study in Australia?
Yeah, so many students will consider things like location of close family and friends. So, you know, if they want to feel connected with family and, you know, are worried about being lonely, then they'll certainly consider that. But I think Neha gave a really good account of why students should consider challenging themselves, really. So whenever I spoke to the international students at JCU, I used to always congratulate them for making the hard choice by not studying in a metropolitan centre. I mean, we all know what it's like to live in a big city. But I think, you know, if you were after a bit of adventure, it's really not that frightening to live and study in a regional centre. It's just that, and you know, you get all the same facilities. The campuses, you know, and the institutions are world class, and they often do specialise in areas of study that are unique to their or important to the area in which they're located. You know, so agri-tech is really important for University of New England and again JCU and CQU and Rockhampton and lots of other places. Charles Sturt University would be another one. And so, you know, that they are really outstanding programs that have access to incredible facilities as well as the living laboratories. So students actually apply their learning with, you know, really state of the art facilities and equipment, but they actually apply it out in the field. So I guess, you know, students might want to choose a destination on the basis of the experience that they want to have. And I think that's an important one. I think, you know, the choice of a non-metro institution is pretty safe because there's always accommodation, purpose-built student accommodation, either on campus or very nearby. Most of the centres have you know, different food options. Most cater for a variety of religious beliefs and so on. So, yeah, I think students should think instead of just following where other students go, they should think about what it is that that I want to experience through my living and studying abroad, and then think of also about what outcomes do they want to achieve, and think carefully about the connection between course and career.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Melissa. So my next question is, the Northern Territory and Western Australia, including the major cities of Darwin and Perth, are considered regional areas for migration purposes. How can this distinction influence an international student's destination decision? What is unique to regional areas? Angela, would you like to offer some advice on this question, and then we'll ask Herwindu as well?
Yes, not a problem. Thank you. So international students can be eligible for up to an extra 2 years on their per-study work rights visa, as well as improved access to the migration visas. Besides those ones which all of the information is made available on the Home Affairs website, there's a lot of other big benefits which Melissa's been talking about today. So some of the biggest benefits that I see are regional cities have more capacity to welcome an increasing number of international students. So whether that's having a lot of space, and in the last 12 months, we've definitely all learned about the perks of being slightly isolated over here in Australia, and having that regional piece as well just really does mean that there is that more space around as well. It's also more affordable in some cases, which does come into a space factor, and there are more employment opportunities. We see the employment opportunities really come into play when people are looking for jobs. It's just a little bit less competitive because there are more places than there are people available as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Angela. So Herwindu, from your perspective, is there anything that you would like to discuss in regards to, living in these regional areas and what's unique to them? Oh, just microphone on.
Sure. Thank you about that. I think the rest of the panels as well have already mentioned the additional benefits as well. But for us here in Darwin, in addition to having the additional migration points, many students are also looking for opportunities that exist in Darwin that students will never get by living in major cities where competition is more fierce. For us here in Darwin, it's easier to get around in Darwin. The population here is around 250,000 people only. And students don't really experience traffic jam, and the pace is a lot more relaxed than the hustle and bustle of major cities. The other point as well is the job opportunities. So in Darwin here in the whole Northern Territory is actually there is actually quite a bit of opportunities for both part-time and full-time employment. And as you can see, I'm already currently working from the office, and a lot of the businesses here actually have already opened like normal. So Neha also mentioned as well that there is a more of a community feel, and it's easier to meet people here, especially in Darwin, that people know you by name. For Darwin itself, we are located in a very good situation. So we are very close to Southeast Asia, and we enjoy again the summer all year round. And when the situation gets better, when the borders is open, so students can travel to Singapore, which is only 4.5 hours by plane, and traveling to Bali again, it's only 2.5 hours by plane. So it's actually very, very convenient, very, very close to those locations. So for students who want to study in Australia and want to stay close to their home country, they can, and this is the place to go as well. So that hopefully that the borders will be open very soon as well. But in terms of study, so CDU has many collaborations with institutions in the Southeast Asia, and many students can also take specialty course offerings. They are only available in the regional areas, such as for CDU, such as tropical health and studies, emergency and disaster management, paramedicine, or even aeromedical retrieval as well. So regional campuses are also the best place to really explore Australia's natural environment and experience the Australian outback. So students will have a chance to get to know Australia and take up the amazing lifestyle opportunities that it offers.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Herwindu. And thank you, Angela, for your perspective on the kind of regional living situation. So Neha, having studied and lived in Newcastle in New South Wales and now Adelaide in South Australia, were you conscious of them being regional areas? How do you feel that they differed from if you had lived in a city like Melbourne, Sydney, or Brisbane?
Very good question. I was warned by a lot of my friends that, oh, it's a very small city and there's nothing to do and you'll feel lonely. But once I got to, say, Central Coast or now in Adelaide, I found that it was very cosmopolitan, and I found so many similar facilities and entertainment that I would essentially find in the bigger cities like Sydney, Melbourne, or Brisbane. So rest assured, you will find everything you need. And if I could show you the experience I had and am currently having in a snapshot, and you can see in the slides on screen that there's so many new friendships you can make, and how beautiful the scenery and the landscapes are, and how vibrant Adelaide is essentially. As you can see in this slide, there's state-of-the-art architectural wonders and a good public transport system, beautiful places to visit. The festival vibes is great, and the food culture is quite stunning. And of course, like I said, I live with a host family here in Adelaide, so it's kind of my home away from home.
Thank you so much, Neha. Thank you for sharing such wonderful pictures as well. Are they your photos? Yes. Well done. Really beautiful snapshots there. Thank you so much. So my next question, Melissa, is what resources are available to students who are trying to decide where to study? What is the best method for them to be researching this, the most effective way of kind of moving forward?
Yeah, look, that's going to vary depending on how students like to undertake their research. But as you say, there are many, many resources, and I would encourage students to start with the Study Australia website, because you can start there by searching courses. It will give you the options of all the courses that are offered online at the moment, all the on-campus courses, all the courses that allow you to start at home online and then transfer to Australia. And soon I will be adding all the courses, the Australian courses that are taught in your country. So starting there and searching for the courses that suit your interests, I think is a really good start. On that website, you will also find, reasons, facts about Australia. It'll help you calculate the cost of living. It'll give you some information about accommodation, and talk to you about how to apply, and talk to you about visas and so on. And then after that, your options are enormous. I mean, you could go and talk to a local education agent, or you can go online and join some of the student communities and talk directly to students who are currently studying, or even alumni. And the institutions are also very good. They all have very good websites, excellent information provision, and they do also allow students to submit questions and so on. So there's really no lack of information. Sometimes there's actually too much. So to simplify it, I suggest you start your journey on Study Australia website.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Melissa. So we'll share the Study Australia website in the chat now. If there are any students currently offshore that have never visited this website, or students onshore that didn't realise that this resource was available to them, we'll pop that in the chat for you now. So Melissa, again, if an international student is focusing on their future career and pathways, more so than simply the best student experience, what should they be looking into specifically when it comes to choosing a destination?
Yeah, good question. So shortly, I'm also going to be adding a career searcher function to the Study Australia website. So
Fantastic.
that one's going to be a little bit longer, but it's going to allow students to think about the course selection from the perspective of what they actually want to do. So if I want to be an accountant, then it will pop up all the different accounting options, which might range from vet courses right through to PhD and so on. So it'll give you all the options. I think critical in making the decision about, course, where to study, destinations and careers is to look carefully at the study options and whether they include some kind of industry experience. So, most of the engineering courses in Australia, certainly the undergraduate degrees, all include 3 months of actual work placement. You have to do that in order to graduate. And I just think, those sorts of work opportunities are really important because they give students the opportunity to actually apply their learning in a workplace. But more importantly are the actual softer skills where they learn to communicate in a work setting. They learn, the importance of teams and working within a team, and they learn, how to apply some initiative and so on. Also, they learn how to build networks, and that's really important. I think the big mistake many international students make is that they do their studies and they might work part-time in something completely unrelated, such as hospitality. I mean, that's typical student work, isn't it, for both domestic and international students? You'll often see them working in cafes and bars and so on. But if you can actually secure work in your field, even if it's part-time, that's really valuable. And the skills that you learn, even working in cafes and pubs and whatever, even if they're not related to your actual degree or your area of study, you are learning really, really valuable skills. So I think my advice to international students is to do think early about your career and what you will do on graduation. And pretty much your career begins on day one when you arrive on campus, because you really do need to take advantage of all the opportunities you're going to have to build your skills that will help you in the workplace later on.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Melissa. So building on that discussion of employability and considering future career paths, Angela, is there a significant difference in employability prospects between each Australian city? What should international students be expecting?
Yeah, there definitely is. And I think that comes into place with the more employment opportunities part that I was speaking about before within regional areas. And it really comes down to that competitiveness as well. So having less people there means there's less people competing for the jobs and more places. That same part goes through with part-time employment, post-study employment, and even graduate placement programs. For example, in Western Australia, the job market has continued to go from strength to strength, and it has recovered 99% of all of the jobs that were lost due to COVID as well. So that's really picked back up, and we've gone straight back into where we were. West Australia has a history of being a desirable place to work, with historical figures average 8% wages higher than the national average as well. But from what our kind of industries are and key industries over here, that again differs with the employability prospects, and it really does come into play when students are choosing what career path they want to go down, and that then influences where they're looking to study. So Western Australia is an enterprise powerhouse, with 32% of the ASX listed companies calling Perth home to their corporate headquarters. For example, on that, 6 of the world's top 10 energy companies have a headquarters in Perth. So we've got really big names like Shell, Chevron, Rio Tinto, BHP, Impex, and Woodside here in a regional city as well, which is really great. So I don't think that being in a regional place kind of detracts from the employability opportunities. I think it really does enhance it. And yeah, it's really great over here. Thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Angela. And that leads us on very nicely to the next question, which is, what are the key industries or sectors currently employing in your respective cities and regions, Angela and Herwindu? So we'll pass it back through to you, Angela. So you've already discussed energy. What other industries and sectors within Western Australia are incredibly in demand?
Yeah, so we've got the 4th highest density of engineers in the world. So that's about 22 engineers per 1,000 people. So really large for engineering students over here. And 60% of the global mining software has been developed in Perth as well. So that really goes into that IT and technology space. We've got a booming startup scene and culture. We've been recognised as a global hub for entrepreneurial talents. And we're also home to the largest medical treatment research and education centre in the Southern Hemisphere. On top of that, though, that's all about the kind of post-study employment, but we really have a lot of part-time employment opportunities as well in the hospitality, tourism and agriculture sectors. So as an example, I was just speaking to Optus Stadium, and they're trying to recruit 700 employees at the moment. So we really are needing to get some more people over here and into the jobs that we've got available as well.
Fantastic, thank you. And Herwindu, from your perspective in the Northern Territory, what are the key industries and sectors that international students should be looking to?
Sure. So a couple of important industries here in the NT. So one is the government and community services. So this industry is a significant contributor to the NT economy in terms of its contribution to gross state product, and over a third of NT employment, so which is around 42.2% of NT workforce work in the sector. So this comprises of public administration and safety, education and training, and also healthcare and social assistance as well. The second one here that is important in the NT is the service industries. So this includes a range of industries which are individually small, but combined are the third largest proportion of the NT's economic output and second largest proportion of the total employment, which is around 32.4% people in the NT work in this industry. So the service industries comprises of rental, hiring and real estate services, transport, professional, scientific and technical services, financial and insurance services, administration and support services, accommodation and food services, arts and recreation services as well. The part of this sector. The other one that I can think of is the agribusiness. So agriculture, forestry, fishing industry is also a significant employer and source of economic activity here in the regional and remote areas of the NT. So the industry has also an important linkages to other sectors of the economy, including retail and wholesale trade, manufacturing and transport. Last one I can think of is the tourism. So tourism here is also it's starting to boom here as well. So it is an important economic driver for the NT and a significant industry in regional areas as well. So tourism's contribution to the NT economy is also captured in a range of industries. So this includes accommodations and food services, retail trade, culture and recreation, and also transport. So both for part-time and full-time opportunities is available for students.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Herwindu. So that brings us to the end of the question section that we have organised. So we're now going to go into Q&A. Thank you so much to everyone that is asking questions. Again, please make sure that your questions are general in nature and regarding today's topic. There will be plenty more webinars later in the year that may target a particular topic that is of interest to you. So one question here we got from registration, I might hand this over to you, Neha, is what do you wish that you had known before coming to Australia as an international student? Is there something that you wish you had been able to prepare for? Was there something surprising that you found when you arrived?
Something I wish I knew before coming to Australia would be how versatile you need to be when you're living alone as a student in this country. You have to be in charge of your academics, of course, but you also have to put in enough time and energy in developing yourself professionally and interpersonally and do your own chores and run errands, but also just have enough versatility to balance your life, your work and your social life and your personal life. So I wish I was prepared for that, for all the challenges I had to face alone as a student. But I think what I've learned and sometimes you just learn by doing. So my best advice is that reach out when you need help, talk with the locals, speak with your mentors, your supervisors, and just voice out how you feel. And there's so many support services in Australia that you can reach out for. There's mental health support, there's student financial health and well-being support. So if you feel like you're stuck anywhere, just reach out and you'll see yourself faring well.
Fantastic. I know that from my experience studying abroad, you're kind of forced to be independent very quickly. And as you were saying, there's a lot of things that you don't realize that you have to be prepared for, but it's funny how quickly you can adapt. So, it might be overwhelming for a little bit, but then as you said, you realize there are all these support centers, support services available to you. And it's funny how quickly as a human we can just, adapt to the situation at hand. Thank you so much, Neha. So Melissa, a question here from Diego, who said, I'd like to study and live in Australia as a relative of mine has, but my expectations are being affected due to the pandemic. What recommendations could you give to us to achieve this objective in the short term?
Yeah, so in the short term, there are no easy answers, I'm afraid. So if you're a student who's already enrolled and, you were studying in Australia and left because of the pandemic, and you're looking to come back, there's a very good chance that you'll get the opportunity to come back through a student arrival plan being organised through states and territories. But until borders more broadly open, it will only be through those very organised, tightly controlled arrangements that students will be coming. So I guess, you know, you really need to think about whether you might want to start your studies online now, so that you can start to build your credentials towards post-study work rights. So at the moment, students who enrol in eligible courses offshore, such as, you know, 2-year master degrees or undergraduate degrees or even research, while you're studying offshore, your period of study is actually counting towards post-study work rights. So that one day when the borders open and you transfer to study in Australia, the studies that you've already undertaken actually count towards post-study work rights, and you do not have to do an additional 2 years in Australia to qualify for post-study work rights. So it's whatever period you spent offshore plus the period you spend in Australia equals 2 years, therefore post-study work rights. So I guess, you know, you could think about starting your studies now and then waiting for those opportunities to transfer to Australia.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Melissa. So we're actually getting quite a few questions coming through from our audience members asking when the borders will open. As Melissa said earlier, unfortunately, we just don't know. We don't have that information at hand. The latest announcement is that potentially mid-2022, but again, we just don't know. The situation keeps changing almost daily. So unfortunately, we don't have a firm date of when borders will open. So our final question for today.
Sorry, Alex, if
Absolutely.
I could just add to that. That was admittedly by our own treasurer a very conservative estimate. And so clearly he's very confident that by mid-2022, borders will be open for free flow. And so I think it's very reasonable to hope that things will happen in advance of that. And again, those states and territory student arrival plans will be key to all of that, as will the vaccination rollouts. And, you know, if we're planning to have the vast majority of Australia's population immunised by the end of 2021, who knows what could happen in early 2022.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Melissa. So our final question here, I might direct this to you, Angela, and then we may get Herwindu's opinion as well. From Gustavo, who's asking, what is more valuable for the Australian job market and companies hiring international students? Is it experience, both offshore and onshore? Is it degree, which includes where you've gotten your degree from? Or is it your level of English skills?
I think it's a bit of a Venn diagram of them all, but mainly it's the willingness to give it all your best shot. And some of that comes with experience, but I think it's confidence as well. And by preparing yourselves in the best way possible to go into that interview or apply for that graduate program, any piece like that, I think that's where you'll have success. So doing your research about the company, about what they're looking for in that position, and really show that you went to the effort to understand what it is that that person is looking for, that's how you'd be able to land the job of your dreams.
Fantastic. And Herwindu, do you have anything to build on what Angela was just saying?
I think the what Angela has mentioned is pretty much what I think as well. And I will say it's a combination of all. So really depending on the position on the job itself as well. So it is really important for you to make sure to do background research before you apply for the job, really. So yeah, it is a combination for all. So yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So thank you again to all of our presenters today, and thank you to our audience for joining us for the first Australia X event of 2021. We've also just launched Australia X Answers. Now, this is an opportunity for you to ask questions that are important to you regarding things like your study options, visas, employability in Australia, and we will have a chat with the experts to answer the questions for you. So you submit your question to the Australia X Answers. We'll pop a link to that in the chat now, and then we will share your answers answered by the experts on social media so that everyone has an opportunity to learn from what are frequently asked questions by international students. Next week's webinar is all about life in the Northern Territory, and Herwinder will kindly join us again, so keep an eye on our Insider Guides newsletter and social media for all of the details regarding that. There will be a recording of today's webinar as well if any of you would like to return to Melissa's wonderful presentation or any of the discussion regarding employability, or Neha kindly taking us through her student experience journey. All of that will be available on the Australia X website, which we will share in the chat now as well. So an enormous thank you again to everyone that has joined us, especially those of you that have joined us from offshore. Thank you so much. I understand that you will be battling with time zones at the moment, and we really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to join us for Australia X. Thank you so much, everyone, and we will catch you at the next event.
So when I first landed to Australia, I just fell in love.
Laura is a delightful young woman. Our relationship has gone beyond working.
She's just been an angel, I think. We're very close friends, and together I'm happy to share with her like my experiences here, and she's been there always. I have met beautiful and wonderful people from all around the world, trying different food cultures. It's something that develops you professionally, but the real life experience develops you as a human. It's been amazing and beautiful and fulfilling.